Okay, so this is Beardgate. If you are following the Fort Huachuca story, there are so many twists and turns in this story. I honestly can't be making this stuff up. So, what happened, if you guys didn't listen to our live yesterday, we went through everything. Mitch obviously believed that he saw Erica Kirk and Cabot Phillips at a hotel on Fort Huachuca base. And this was on September 8th in the evening. He didn't accuse him of doing anything weird, just walking out of the hotel into a green pickup truck. Okay, so I obviously messaged Cabot Phillips. I've been trying to get a response from him, and I had noted that he was not seated in his typical chair over at the Morning Wire. It's a daily morning show that they have at the Daily Wire. And so he appeared to be on vacation, last appearance being on September 4th through to when Charlie Kirk gets assassinated. Here's what happens next, quite interestingly. So Brian Harpole gives a kind of non-alibi wrong flights. Erica provides an alibi via Andrew Colvett to a YouTuber. Wrong day. It's September 9th. We're just like, can we get something solid? Well, Liz Wheeler jumps in out of nowhere this morning and she's like, gotcha, debunked, because you're saying he was seen on the 8th, but here you go. He's on the show, on his show on the 4th at the Daily Wire. And then here he is on the 8th as well, but he's actually not in studio. It's clearly some satellite thing. And I'm going to show you what she posted here as proof that he was, I guess, on the show on September 8th. Making matters even more odd is that 2 days later on the 10th, he would be back on the Morning Wire and the beard's gone, starting to grow back, but still gone. So clearly the 8th was pre-recorded, and yet they felt the need to release it on the 8th, which is obviously the exact date that Mitch thinks that he saw Cabot in Arizona on Fort Huachuca base. Again, this doesn't necessarily, we can't extrapolate that and be like, oh, well, this means he was definitely at Fort Huachuca. Obviously not. I reached out again to Cabot today, just trying to get some clarity on why they would record something on the 4th and then try to make it look like it was live on the 8th. There are 1,000 different reasons, like I've said from the beginning. First off, Daily Wire does normally pre-record everything, but it's usually pre-recorded and then released on the same day. And maybe he wanted to pre-record it because he was going on vacation. 1,000 different options here than to try to be like, oh, well, this means he was definitely at Fort Huachuca. But it is interesting that every time somebody moves to try to debunk something and is so over the top about it, it actually ends up showing us something else that maybe requires a little further examination. So I will say it's becoming increasingly compelling, and maybe also a part of me is interested in this because I have found Ben Shapiro's behavior to be very over the top and strange. Like he's like personally invested in the story somehow. Could it be because Cabot Phillips was at Fort Huachuca? Maybe it's not, and it's just completely separate. But if you do know where Cabot Phillips was on the 8th, since we can't get an answer from him, please email us at moretips@CandaceOwens.com. Because like I said, we are actively trying to debunk Mitch. We are also out to Erica, and there has been some communication. We're working on trying to ascertain where she was as well. Hopefully we will know more, and maybe it's just a big nothing burger. Except the real glaring inaccuracy was the fact that she missed that Cabot Phillips had posted on X that following the 4th, in the evening on the 4th, he had completely shaved his beard off and was like, I'm only going to have a mustache for the next 3 weeks. I guess that's how long it takes him to grow his beard. Men say it takes like usually a month to grow your beard back, but she missed this. So take a look at what Cabot posted on the 4th before he went on vacation. less than 4 days later, Cabot, for whatever reason, is on the Daily Wire joining Satellite, which is what Liz was referring to, on the morning of the 8th, and his full beard is back, which means that this segment was pre-recorded. The earliest it could have been recorded was on the 4th.
All right, so you've just watched Candace Owens walk through the Fort Huachuca timeline and explain why she believes the so-called debunk doesn't actually settle anything. Now, let's talk, guys. Because whether you agree with Candace or not, there are some very real questions here, and brushing them off doesn't actually make them go away. First of all, let's be clear about something. Candace is not saying this proves someone did something. What she is saying is the timeline is messy and the explanations given so far don't clean it up, they complicate it. And honestly, that part is hard to ignore. The entire controversy starts with a simple claim. Someone says they saw Cabot Phillips and Erica Kak at a hotel on Fort Huachuca base on the evening of September 8th. No accusation, no crime alleged, just I saw them there. That alone shouldn't be controversial. People see people places every day, to be very honest, guys. The controversy begins with how hard people rushed to shut it down. Now, Liz Wheeler comes in and says, this has been debunked. Cabot Phillips was on the Daily Wire. Okay, fair point. If that appearance was live, in studio, and time-stamped clearly. But here's where Candace's argument actually gets interesting. She reminds everyone that Daily Wire content is very often pre-recorded. This is not a conspiracy, this is just how media works. Morning shows, podcasts, political commentary, especially when hosts are traveling or on vacation, are constantly pre-recorded. So simply saying he was in the show that day doesn't automatically answer the question, where was he when it was recorded? Now, let's talk about the beard because people laughed these off. But stay with me, guys. Cabot Philip posts on September 4th showing a clean-shaven face. Not trimmed, not shortened, just a clean-shaven face with in short, just a clean-shaven face. And, the beard were not, the beards were not big. They looked shaven. Then suddenly, on September 8th, he appears on the show with a full beard. Now, I don't care what beard oil you use, guys, but that's not how facial hair works, to be very honest. Candace isn't saying magic beard is equal to crime. She's saying the footage doesn't match the timeline being presented. And honestly, she's right about that. If the September 8th clip shows a full beard, then logic says it was recorded before September 4th, not on the 8th, which means the clip was likely pre-recorded and released later. Again, not illegal, not suspicious on its own. But here's the part people keep skipping over. Why release a pre-recorded clip on the exact same date someone claims to have seen Cabot Phillips in Arizona? Is that proof of anything? Is it a coincidence? Maybe. But coincidences invite questions, especially when people are aggressively insisting there are no question to ask. And that is where this gets uncomfortable, because every time someone tries to shut this down quickly, they end up creating more unanswered gaps. Now, add this layer. Candace also points out that explanations offered so far haven't been consistent. There have been wrong dates given, half alibis, people speaking around the question instead of answering it directly. And when someone simply asks, where were you on September 8th? The answer shouldn't require a detective board, to be very, very honest. The answer should be simple. Now, let's talk about Daily Wire culture for a second. Candace herself acknowledges that pre-recording is normal there. Hosts travel, content is stacked, episodes are banked in advance. So why not just say, yes, this was pre-recorded on this and this date? Why are they like over explaining? And this is where my opinion comes in, guys. I don't think this proves anything sinister, but I do think the response to this story has been over defensive. And when people act like even asking questions is out of bounds, it creates the exact opposite effect. It makes people look closer. Candace even brings up Ben Shapiro's behavior, not as an accusation, but as an observation. She says his reaction feels unusually personal. Again, that doesn't mean guilt, but it does raise curiosity. Why does this specific story hit such a nerve? And here's the most important part that gets lost online. Candace repeatedly says this could be all nothing, a big nothing burger, a coincidence stacked on top of coincidence. But until there is a clear, direct timeline, people are going to keep asking. And honestly, that's fair. Because transparency kills speculation, silence feeds it. At the end of the day, nobody is on trial here. No allegations are being proven. No conclusion are being drawn. What is happening is a public debate about timelines, media practices, and how quickly people label something debunked without actually closing all the gaps. And whether you like Candace Owens or not, this is one of those moments where asking questions isn't radical. It's normal. So we will see where this goes, guys. Maybe it will fade away. Maybe it gets clarified tomorrow. Maybe someone finally just answers the questions cleanly. But until then, people will keep, watching closely to see where this story gets. And people are thinking, people are talking, and people, will continue asking questions because this story has really sparked a lot of mixed reaction online. And guys, I guess that's where I'll leave it for now. That's all for now. I'll update you with more news. Please hit the subscribe button, and also don't forget to turn on the post notification bell so that you can always stay updated whenever we post a new video. Let's meet in the next one. I love you all, and may God bless you.